In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Jesus. Santa Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus nunc and hora mortis nostrae. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Hello, everyone. Today's Wednesday, January 27th, 2021, and I wanted to briefly give a perspective, a spiritual warfare perspective on a hot topic right now, which is the fact that Pope Francis has recently opened up or paved the way, so it seems, for women to become deacons. And I think this is very dangerous. And to me, I don't know if the Pope, God help us, just doesn't understand how spiritual warfare works or if he just hates women. I don't know what his reasoning is for doing this. But it's doing women a great disservice. It's leaving us very vulnerable and it's opening us up to all kinds of demonic attacks. And ultimately, it's opening up the church to destruction, to be taken away from the true magisterium, to be taken away from Jesus Christ himself. It's very dangerous what he has going on. So here's my issue. And I'm not going to get into the theology of everything because there's a whole theological argument as to why this is bad. I want to get into it from a purely spiritual warfare perspective. And I'm going to go over three books. I'm going to go over a section in Genesis. I'm going to go over the Book of Enoch, which is not canonized. And I'm going to go over the Book of Tobit, which is only in the Catholic Bible, not the Protestant Bible. And I want to point out the relationship that the demonic have with women is very different from the relationship they have with man. Man, they attack. They hate man. They want all they want is the destruction of man and to drag his soul into hell with them for eternity. And while they want the same thing for women, they view women as being useful for another role. And that is they play off of what God, the woman's most powerful gift that from God, which is producing life. So they want to use woman. They want to capture woman for their own. They want to take woman away from man and they want to take woman away from God. And they want to use woman for their own diabolical schemes. And part of the reason is because they lust after women. They, especially beautiful women, they lust after and they want them for their own. And they want to, you know, make unholy fruits from that union. But also, like I said, they recognize the woman in her capacity as being able to give life. So they want to use woman to give birth to their own schemes. They want to use women to give life to their own kingdom, if you will, their own plans. So woman, just a lay woman in general, already has this giant target on her back. And especially, like I said, if she's a beautiful woman or something like that, or a godly woman, that would be a prize bride for Satan, a prize bride for these demons. So now if you're putting woman in this very visible role in the church, and that's what it is, it's this visible role of authority to participate in the holy sacrifice of the Mass, you just increased that target on her back by like 100-fold, or I mean, by an enormous capacity. And to top it off, woman is pretty much dependent on male authority, whether it be the authority of Jesus Christ or the authority of males on earth, earthly males, for her protection, not only physically, but also spiritually speaking. That's just the way it was set up. That is the authority that God gave to Adam. You're to protect this gift of woman that I'm giving to you. And it's both spiritually and physically speaking. Woman gets her power not from being a physical, visible entity and of power in the church hierarchy. Woman gets her power from pushing the men up to God and making sure they're on the straight and narrow so that they can be more effective in their capacity as protectors of woman. That is where we get our power. We do not get our power from being up on that altar. I have news for you women, and I see it It's just insane to me. All these the altar servers up there with no, their heads not veiled and stuff. It's just I don't agree with it. I don't. And not that I'm the Pope or anything like that. Not that I have authority to make any sort of decision, but to me as a woman, I want to know why you're opening women up. You're misleading women into thinking that they're equal to men when it comes to battling demons. So now this woman, these deacon women are going to have these, they're going to be attacked, and Satan is going to want to hijack their ministry, because that's what deacons are, right? They're given these ministries, so to speak, to minister to the lay people. They kind of act as an intermediary between the lay faithful and the priest. So now Satan's going to want to get control of these women and claim them for his own, so that it can people will be more misled, and it could, I guess it can, I don't know, give birth to his own ideas of how the church should be run. See what I mean? That's why it's so dangerous, because when a man falls, right? When a man falls to Satan, it does not have the same effect as when a woman falls to Satan, because as we see in the garden, right? What happens? Eve takes the fruit and eats the fruit and then convinces her husband to do so. And Adam is so enthralled with this gift of Eve that's, his, and bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, that he actually puts the advice of woman over the commandment of God. He puts the creature over the creator. And this is a very dangerous, dangerous, dangerous theme to start playing around with in the church. Very dangerous. So what is my point in all this? My point in all this, and we already have a spiritual earthly mother. Mary was a human. Mary was a creature. She was created. And we have her. We don't need women serving in that capacity as spiritual mothers. We just don't. We have a spiritual mother who was a human and raised above all humans, and raised above all angels and saints. Now, we have a spiritual father as well, but he was not created. He was incarnate. He was begotten. He was not created. So we need almost to have that portion filled as well, which is where I think the priest can come in, because the priest can act as the spiritual father, and he's fully, he's only human, he's created. To top it all off, we get into this whole weird gender ideology coming. When the priest makes the sacrifice and consecrates the gifts, it's actually Christ coming down and doing that. And the priest is said to act in persona Christi, where he's just the vehicle and it's actually Christ consecrating the gifts. Now, if we have a woman doing that, where eventually that's the issue, they think deacons are going to lead to, female priests. Are you saying that Christ is a transgender? I mean, this is opens up this whole can of worms that I don't think we need to be opening at all. But most importantly, and what I want to talk about right now, is the fact that there is a precedent in the Old Testament that demons lusted after women more than they wanted to destroy women. They wanted to create with women. They wanted to create unholy things with human women, rather than just simply destroy them. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's even more dangerous, because now they want to bear unholy fruits using women instead of just simply destroying them, and like they want to do to men and drag them down into hell. You never see one instance in the Old Testament where demons procreate with man, or, they always, their agendas are always born with women. Always. So, without further ado, so the first verse in scripture I want to go over is Genesis chapter 6, the origin of the Nephilim. And we get clarification on this in the Book of Enoch, which is not part of the Bible. It was not canonized, but we are offered some insight, and there is a basis for the Book of Enoch. It is quoted in the New Testament by the Epistle of Jude, I believe, And it just basically plays off of what we already know. It's just in more detail. And it's not banned from the church or anything like that. We can still learn some stuff from it. And it's important when I'm talking about this topic, especially. So, Genesis chapter 6. When human beings began to grow numerous on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw how beautiful the daughters of human beings were, and so they took for their wives whomever they pleased. Then the Lord said, my spirit shall not remain in human beings forever, because they are only flesh. Their days shall comprise 120 years. So he actually, you remember prior to this, Noah lived for like 900 years or something. They all lived for these really long lifespans. So this is the first instance where God actually cuts our lifespan down. So, it includes more death. He told us in the garden, if you ate the fruit, then you're going to die. And so it's just another incidence of that. But I want to read the notes, the Bible footnotes on this. So this is in the New American Bible, because the older one I have doesn't have this. So the sons of God, this is what the definition they give is other heavenly beings. So they're not sons of man. They're not men. They're not like you and me. They're not human, is my point. So to me, we get some clarification in this. They're called watchers in the book of Exodus. I'm sorry, the book of Enoch, and they are heavenly beings. I believe, a group of fallen angels, or they are a group of angelic beings. Whether they're fallen angels or whatever, but they're part of this. They are fallen angels because they rebel against God. So they're part of this group of Satan's army, basically, that fell down from heaven. But their original purpose, as we're going to see in the book of Enoch, was to assist man and intercede for man, and kind of keep order amongst the natural the natural things of the earth, the natural elements of the earth. But instead, they took these women, they took human women as their own wives. And it says the Nephilim appeared on earth in those days as well as later. So that's important, because it's thought that because of this great catastrophe and this corruption of the human race by the fallen angels, that's why God caused the flood. But there is some evidence that they were on earth after the flood as well. After the sons of God, after the sons of God, which are angels, had intercourse with the daughters of human beings who bore them sons. They were the heroes of old, the men of renown. So what does that mean? Like Hercules, like all this Greek mythology, they're thought of as this giant race that was evil and destructive. When the Lord saw how great the wickedness of human beings was on earth, and how every desire that their heart conceived was always nothing but evil, the Lord regretted making human beings on earth, and his heart was grieved. So the Lord said, I will wipe out from the earth human beings I have created, and not only the human beings, but also the animals and the crawling things and the birds of the air, for I regret that I made them. But Noah found favor with the Lord. Okay, so then we turn to the book of Enoch, and this sheds more light on this very phenomenon of angels taking women as their wives, having intercourse with them, and breeding something else. So this is what he says. And I think, so the book of Enoch, to give more history on it, during the time where the Bible was being compiled, it was really not a well-known book. They had certain pieces of it, but they didn't have the whole thing. And the whole thing was really discovered, to the Western world, so to speak, with the Dead Sea Scrolls, with that discovery. And I think God, in all his wisdom, withheld it purposely, and he's made it known now in a time where it makes more sense. But a lot of it has the same themes as the book of Revelation anyway. Just certain things, there's just more detail, I would say. So this is what happens. Okay, so this is chapter 6 as well. And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. So it's almost word for word the same as Genesis. In the angels, the children of heaven, so Genesis calls them the sons of God, he calls them angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and begot us children. And then he names them all. And I'm not going to name them because it's creepy. And I think that's another good reason why this was not included in the Bible, because now we actually have names of demons, and which ones to contact for which purposes. See what I'm saying? This can go both ways. So the leader said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, let us all swear an oath and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then swore they all together and bound themselves, and they were in all 200, who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And then he lists their names and says, these are their chiefs of 10. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. And they began to go in unto them and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant. And so, what does that say? Let's go back to that for a minute. They taught them things they were not supposed to know. They taught them what was hidden. They taught them the occult. See? And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. And one of the demons taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. So not only did they bear these, create this new hybrid of human, these giants, they also corrupted the normal humans that were not giants, to do all these evil things, which we see in Genesis. God says their thoughts were continuously evil. Um, and one of them taught enchantments and root cuttings in resolving, and the other one taught them the resolving of the enchantments. One of them taught astrology, the constellations, the knowledge of the clouds, the signs of the earth, the signs of the sun, the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they said to one another, the earth made without an inhabitant cries the voice of their crying up to the gates of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, the souls of men, make their suit, saying, bring our cause before the Most High. And they said to the Lord of the ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, and God of ages, the throne of thy glory standeth unto all the generations of the ages, and thy name holy and glorious and blessed upon all ages. Thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou, and all things are naked and open in thy sight. And thou seest all things, and nothing can hide itself from thee. Thou seest what they hath done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule over his associates, they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the woman, and have defiled themselves and revealed to them all kinds of sins. And the woman have borne giants, and the whole earth has thereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness. And now behold, the souls of those who have died are crying and making their suit to the gates of heaven, and their lamentations have ascended and cannot cease because of the lawless deeds which are wrought upon earth. And he brings up Noah. Then said the Most High, the Holy and Great One, spake and sent Uriel to the son of Lamech, and said to him, Go to Noah and tell him in my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again, the Lord said to Raphael, bind, and he's talking about the various demons, and place him in rough, jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face that he may not see light. So this is just 200 of the third of the angels that fell are now going to be bound up. But there's still more that do the same, try to do the same things. And I want to go over. And then we have an interesting explanation in chapter 15. So Enoch is eventually brought up, to heaven to see all this. So now he's at, the throne of God pretty much. And this is what happens. And he answered and said to me, and I heard his voice, Fear not, Enoch, thou righteous man and scribe of righteousness, approach hither and hear my voice. And go say to the watchers of heaven who have sent thee to intercede for them. You should intercede for men, and not men for you. Wherefore have ye left the high, holy, and eternal heaven, and lain with women, and defiled yourselves with the daughters of men, and taken to yourselves wives, and done like the children of earth, and begotten giants as your sons? And thou, ye were holy, spiritual, living the eternal life. You have defiled yourselves with the blood of women, and have begotten children with the blood of flesh. And as the children of men have lusted after flesh and blood, as those also who also do who die and perish. Therefore have I given them wives also, that they might impregnate them and beget children by them, that thus nothing might be wanting to them on earth. And I just want to interject here when he says that he lets men procreate with women so that nothing would be lacking on earth. So that was God in his mercy making a remedy. Because when Adam and Eve were originally created, they were supposed to be immortal. So there was no need to procreate. But since they sinned and got kicked out of the garden, what was the result of that? Death. So they wouldn't live, their bodies wouldn't be immortal anymore. They wouldn't be in heaven anymore. So they came down to this, just, this earth where everything perishes. But God, in all his mercy, knew that man needed to have something to live for, so to speak. So he lets them procreate so that in a way man can still live on earth through his children and through the generations to come. See what I'm saying? But you were formerly spiritual, living the eternal life. He's talking to the fallen angels through Enoch. And immortal for all generations of the world, and therefore I have not appointed wives for you. For as for the spiritual ones of the heaven, in heaven is their dwelling. And now the giants who were produced from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they were born from men, and from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on earth, and evil spirits they shall be called. As for the spirits of heaven, in heaven shall be their dwelling. But as for the spirits of the earth, which were born upon the earth, on the earth shall be their dwelling. So they're not capable of getting into heaven, is what he's saying. And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth, and cause trouble. They take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst, and cause offenses. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of men and against the woman, because they have proceeded from them. So, as we can see, It's in this case, and in the case of Genesis, prior to flood times, it's more of a not so much a rage, not a satanic rage, but maybe the satanic rage directed against God, but it's more of this lust. It's more of this, we want what man has. We want we want his girlfriend, we want his wife, we want his woman. It's that sort of thing. And we're going to see this again in the book of Tobit. Now, Tobit is not in the Protestant Bible, it's only in the Catholic Bible. All right, so the book of Tobit, chapter 6. So Tobiah is the son of Tobit. It's not pronounced that way. This is the newer Bible again. I forget. Tobias, I think, is how it's pronounced. But so here's what happens. He sets out on this journey, and he's accompanied on this journey by the angel Raphael. And it straight up says it in here. So when the young man left home accompanied by the angel, the dog followed Tobiah out and went along with them. Both journeyed along, and when the first night came, they camped beside the Tigris River. When the young man went down to wash his feet in the Tigris River, a large fish leaped out of the water and tried to swallow his foot. He shouted in alarm, but the angel said to the young man, "Grab the fish and hold on to it." He seized the fish and hauled it up to dry land. The angel then told him, "Slit the fish open and take out its gall, heart, and liver, and keep them with you. But throw away the other entrails. Its gall, heart, and liver are useful for medicine." After Tobiah had slit the fish open, he put aside the gall, heart, and liver. Then he roasted and ate part of the fish, the rest he salted and kept for the journey. Afterward, the two of them traveled on together till they drew near to Media. When the young man asked the angel this question, "What medicine is in the fish's heart, liver, and gall?" he answered, "As for the fish's heart and liver, if you burn them to make smoke in the presence of a man or a woman who is afflicted by a demon or evil spirit, any affliction will flee and never return. As for the gall, if you apply it to the eyes of one who has white scales blowing right into them, sight will be restored." When they had entered Media and were getting close to Ecbatana, Raphael said to the young man, "Brother Tobiah," he answered, "Here I am." And Raphael continued, "Tonight we must stay in the house of Raguel, who is a relative of yours. He has a beautiful daughter named Sarah, but no other son or daughter apart from Sarah. Since you are Sarah's closest relative, you more than any other have the right to marry her. Moreover, her father's estate is rightfully yours to inherit. Ready? The girl is wise, courageous, and very beautiful, and her father is a good man who loves her dearly." He continued, "You have the right to marry her, so listen to me, brother. Tonight I will speak to her father about the girl, so that we may take her as your bride. When we return..." Okay, so blah, blah, blah. But Tobiah said to Raphael in reply, "I have heard that she has already been given in marriage to 7 husbands, and that they have died in the bridal chamber. On the very night they approached her, they would die. I have also heard it is said that it was a demon that killed them. So now I too am afraid of this demon, because it is in love with her and does not harm her, but it kills any man who wishes to come close to her." And then Raphael tells, basically he uses the fish as the medicine to drive off the demon. But the point of the matter is, again, there's this theme of demons lusting after human women. So my question is this, just based on a purely spiritual warfare standpoint, why would we open the church up to this? Why would we knowingly put women in a visible position in the structure of the hierarchy, knowing that demons lust after women to fulfill their own evil desires, more so than even man? Why would we do that? It's not only stupid, it's diabolical. It's not about equal rights and all this stuff. Like, there's certain rules that you follow in battle. There's certain rules that you need to follow that were given by God. You cannot disrupt the natural order or bad things will happen. And that's what we're seeing constantly play out. And it's really an injustice to women. I'll be honest. Instead of, it's supposed to liberate women and make them more equal or something in the eyes of the church or in society, but it's an injustice. It's going to do the complete opposite. It's going to paint an even more defined target, like I said, on women. And it's going to make them more of a high value target than the men in the same positions. Why? For the simple fact that women can give birth to a new creation. So we have a big problem in the church, and I pray for the days when we can go back to tradition, the great restoration that our Holy Mother promises. And if you're a woman and you're confused about what role you play in the church, always turn to the Holy Mother. And I'm not saying there's no place for women in the church. That's not it. We are allowed, as we can see, Anna in the temple, I think her name was Anna, right? She was a prophetess. We're allowed to prophesy. We're allowed to teach children the faith. And these are all, we're all acting in we're protected in those ministries, if you will, because that's what we're designed to do. We're designed to kind of steer the men, like I said, to bring them closer to God so that they can offer the protection. So, the novena of Our Lady of Buenos Suceso is still going on, and she warned about all this and this idea of ruling through the Masonic sects in society and in the church. So, with that being said, I want to just say, Our Lady of Buenos Suceso, pray for us. Joan of Arc Media out.